Hello, everyone. Today I'll be reviewing Roofman. I saw this movie somewhat recently. I'm excited to talk about it. I did not see it on opening weekend. I just moved to Jacksonville, so been a little busy, but wanted to talk about this one because I saw it on Tuesday and, thought there was a lot to say about it. I was looking forward to this movie. I saw the trailer, thought it looked funny and, looked like it'd be a good comedy. Channing Tatum can be very funny. Um, a lot of the times he's hilarious in the Jump Street movies as well as many other films that I can't name right now, but I know he's a pretty funny guy. Kirsten Dunst is also in it, and she really hasn't been in anything that I've seen in a really long time. Civil War was like the first movie in a while where I was like, oh, she's in this movie. So it was cool to see her again. And then Lakeith Stanley is also in it. And I like Lakeith Stanley and like everything I've seen him in. I think he's a good actor. And then also the girl who plays Keeley in Ted Lasso is in it in a very small and minor role. Um, I don't know the actress's name at the moment. I apologize. But anyways, oh, and Peter Dinklage, duh, he's in it. So pretty good cast actually. Thinking about it, was kind of surprised at how many people were in this movie. But yeah, going into it, I had no like this is a crazy true story. I can't believe that. Actually, I can believe that this hasn't been made a movie yet because for reasons I'll get into later. But it's a very interesting true story about a guy who, couldn't really provide for his family. He got out of the military, was discharged. They didn't really say why, and decided, he's a pretty great logical thinker, really good with numbers, really good at just systems. So he's like, I'm just going to start, you know, robbing McDonald's and making money. And he would go in through the roof, take the money, do the same thing every single time, but was always super nice to the people, always super nice to anybody he was robbing. And yeah, he did that 45 times, I think, and then eventually got caught and went to jail. But after that, was able to break out of jail and through a series of events of trying to get really away from where he is, but couldn't at the moment, gets stuck in a Toys R Us and is living there for months. I don't really remember how long he's there for the entire for the movie's a long time, but he was there for a decent amount of time, and it's incredibly crazy that this actually happened. And it's really cool, like growing up from the 2000s, seeing Toys R Us, just all the nostalgia comes flowing back of like, this store doesn't even exist anymore. So that was super cool to see, and I think there's a lot to like in this movie. I think that Channing Tatum gives an amazing performance, specifically in the first 45 minutes. The movie is almost all on him. I think the movie is all on him. Like he is the only one that you're really centered on and focused on, and he gives an amazing performance. I think that this might be the best performance I've seen him do. Like he is so good in this movie, portrays the character extremely well, and he carries it. Because he's the whole thing. He's the whole point of this movie, and gets all the screen time. I don't know if there's a either no there's I don't know if there's a scene besides the last 5 minutes that he's not in. So he does an amazing job and he gives a great performance. Really great performances all around. Lakeith Stanley gives a really good performance. He's not in it too much, but when he's in it, I think that he is really good in it. I also think that Peter Dinklage plays a really good role. And the other standout is Kirsten Dunst. They both do an amazing job playing their roles. Oh, Ben Mendelsohn is also in this movie, which he hasn't been in something that I've seen like forever. And I love Ben Mendelsohn. So that was cool to see. He plays a character very different than what I'm used to. I'm used to a villain. And he plays like a pastor. I think you can't really tell from the movie, but I think that was cool to see him in it too. I forgot about that, but Kirsten Dunst, going back to it, is amazing. There are some moments where I'm just like, man, like sometimes you watch actors and honestly you could be like, yeah, I could probably do that. I could probably say that line and make that face. But with Channing Tatum and her in this movie, I'm like, I don't know how you did that. I don't know how you do that. They both give such amazing performances. So yeah, the acting's 10 out of 10. I think the story is really interesting for the first 45 minutes. I think that, watching the trailers too, you really think it's going to be a comedy. It really isn't. It's a bit more of a dramedy. Yeah, actually, I didn't mean to say that, but it works. Um, is a bit more of a dramedy where drama is in it, especially towards the last half gets really heavy. But there is comedy in the movie, especially more towards the beginning, but it definitely dies out the later you get. But overall, I think that the pacing kills this movie. I think that, like I said, the first hour, 45 minutes, I'm like, this is so cool. This is so interesting. What's going to happen? And then the rest of the movie, it kind of feels like a crawl to what's eventually going to happen. And the romance just isn't interesting enough to make me be content with where I am and not want to know what happens. And I think that that's the biggest issue, which is interesting. And I think it is just the script because how the actors both give such an amazing performance. It's interesting that they can't carry this last half of the movie. And I think there's some things like he has a daughter he can't see. She has two daughters and is divorced, and he kind of steps into that role, and it kind of comes off as weird. Like I think they try and play it as like, oh, this is so cool. He gets to be with these daughters because he can't be with his own daughter, so he's gonna be a father to them. And it's like, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. There were some parts that were okay, but most parts I was like, this is weird. And also a lot of humor in the movie, specifically in one scene with a singles thing for the church. Oh, it was just very cringy. I think it might have been trying to be cringy, but it was just like, oh my gosh, why are you guys saying this stuff? Very 2000s, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if the writer knows a lot of other 2000s. Maybe that's how people talked. I think probably some of it, but I just didn't like it at all. Um, but I think that, yeah, the pacing just kind of dies out, and it gets a little entertaining towards the end. But they kind of paid this guy up, and I just saw one battle after another too, which I'll review soon. But it's made me question: does Hollywood like heroes anymore, or have they run out of heroes? Because this guy is not a hero. Like, they kind of try and paint him up to be. And for the first hour, I'm like, okay, like, you might be right. He might have just been dealt a bad hand or whatever. And then the last hour, like, seeing what he does, it's like, oh no, like, you're a criminal. You're not the greatest guy. Like, even though you kind of paint it up like, yeah, he's a nice guy, doesn't want to hurt people. It's like, that's fine. Most people don't, and most people also don't then rob McDonald's and rob. I don't want to spoil anything, but do other stuff. So yeah, I was like, man, the the point of this movie to make him seem like something better than he is collapses because of what he does towards the end of the movie. And so yeah, my review on the movie is that it's really interesting the first hour, and then just kind of for me falls apart. I also think something that really takes me out of the movie is there is a horrible depiction of a Presbyterian church. Now, maybe the Presbyterian church that he actually went to during this time um, was, maybe it was like this and portrayed correctly, but how an actual Presbyterian church is supposed to be run is not how this one is. I have a friend who's a devout Presbyterian. He would probably die if he saw this church and, was like, what the heck? This is not Presbyterian. It's extremely, like, you know, laughable. What, like, no one in this church really acts like a Christian. Now, again, I think that there's some merit, and it's like we have to wear this ourselves. As in, like, there are a lot of people who are culturally a Christian, and they're not actually living the faith, and that's a valid point, and I understand betraying that, and you can go ahead and do that if that's what you've experienced. But like the fact that nobody, even like the pastor, really seems to be a good Christian and seems to be just like a caricature of like a happy-go-lucky person is just, in my opinion, horrible. And it's like, it is laughable for anybody who's actually a Christian. It's like, okay, I mean, this writer didn't even try, like, made zero effort to actually try and portray a church well. Specifically in the music that they sing is so far from worship music. I mean, to be fair, and this is the part, to be fair, some like people who are way out there making music that is just not really that good, but in the name of Christianity, that might be what they're portraying. But this was horrible. Like, it's so bad. Like, being a Christian, I'm like, you're not going to sing this in church, in good churches. And so it was a laughable thing because they were trying to paint it up like it was a good normal church, I think. Um, and like even seeing Kirsten Dunst as being this um main point of the church, and then she's really not. She does some things where it's like, okay, well, you wouldn't be doing that. But anyways, that was just the whole thing that took me out of the movie and really kind of didn't help it at all, especially in the second half. But there was a really good line from a cop, and I'll end with this for the review side, is that you want to paint him up as a good guy, and you want to like do all this stuff, and like, oh, he took all these toys to the church, and it's like, well, the toys were stolen, like, and that's kind of the point of the movie, is that like you're trying to put gold paint on a, I don't know, wooden wall, I don't know, so didn't work for me, but still really well made, fantastic acting, and a decent amount of things to like. So overall, I'd give it a C. Honestly, I've changed my grading scale a bit. I'm gonna probably go to letters and maybe just give it one grade, but I'm gonna give it a C. Um, there's some things to like, things to not like. Now going into the forgive me, going into the biblical application, because I like to do this with every movie, because I think that every story um, takes some of it from the gospel, because every story comes from the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I think there's a great story here. And partly with Channing Tatum's character, I forget his name, I think his name's Jeffrey. When he's in the Toys R Us, he's like, the body doesn't need much to survive, but to do what he's doing, which is live in a tiny area of the Toys R Us thing for months, you have to keep your mind active and busy and hopeful. And so he points to, like, he has a date that he's looking forward to something and he wants that to happen. So it's like, keep his mind active, keep his mind towards that, to be content in the present. And I think that is, I mean, straight out of the Christian life. Like, we are waiting for Christ to return, right? And we can get tired. We can just be like, oh my gosh, like, this is taking forever. Or can it just happen already? Or just like, what am I even waiting for? Is this going to happen? But, like what he was saying, like keeping our mind active and busy on that truth that he is going to return, and keeping it active with, he's given us a command, at the end of Matthew, the Great Commission. And it's like to go and share the gospel. It's like we have a task, and we can focus on that and focus on him until he returns, so that, yeah, we don't just get tired and get complacent and get you know apathetic. And so I think that I really liked seeing that in the movie, because it lends really well to the Christian life, because we are waiting and we've been given a task, and if we focus on that task and focus on Jesus, it's like, man, the waiting will be worth it, and we won't be bored in the waiting. And we could sometimes, it could happen. Anyways, that was my review of Roofman. I hope you guys like it. I enjoyed seeing this movie with my wife. But thank you guys so much. Please, if you would like to, you could like and subscribe. That would be awesome. And I hope to get some more reviews out soon. And thank you guys for listening.